Sorry about that. Just want to say sorry again. I think that was the 1 hour time limit. So I'm just going to get Arthur back on.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm back.
sorry, it's the 1 hour time limit.
It's all right. It's all right. It's the
So yeah,
first
sorry,
time. Yeah.
carry on. You
No,
said
no,
when you
I was
look
just
back.
meant. Yeah, I was just when I look back, I joined this practice, Proctor Matthews, to work on a really exciting project. I think that if it wasn't the crisis, I wouldn't have been pushed to look for this new opportunity and therefore realize that actually it's sometimes better to put your dreams aside. I know how we say follow your dreams and so on, but actually I was forced to think differently by the crisis, and I was forced to be placed in a practice that I wouldn't have chosen unless it was the crisis, right? And so I think you will end up in places that you don't expect. You will end up disappointed. You will end up going to things that didn't fit your dreams or the aspiration you had since. But actually, this is an opportunity for you to grow and change and to look at different things. I watched there was another lecture by, say, Jill Redson, who said that he ended up with the crisis going to Zurich and in a practice that does like Swiss architecture, and when he just wanted to do parametric design, and this allowed him to come up with a new way of doing architecture. I think because I was kind of forced into this role, I ended up kind of really involved into one project. I had massive responsibilities, and it made me grow like I would have never grown like this in another practice. So be open-minded and see that what you're going to end up with, which is different opportunities, not necessarily less, but different ones. I would say take them.
Wow.
And don't be sad.
Well, actually, there's a few questions I think that I'd like to ask as well that some of the viewers have asked. So one question that Diana 0808 asked is, can we be hired and start working while studios are closed? So I know right now you've taken some steps to slowly bring in some people into studio. But let's say that you were in a position where someone could work from home. Are you now, as a director of a practice, more open-minded to people working from home?
Yeah. It's now a policy. You can work from. Don't be sad. It's now a policy to either work from home or work here. I think it's a little bit hard when half the studio is home and half the studio is here because there's this sort of fear of missing out. But I think if you need to focus on a task, last thing you want is to have everyone around you like asking you questions and so on. So I think it's fair to say that if you just want to get something done, and that's the kind of agreed task, then it's better that you're at home than surrounded by many people. However, some people might prefer to be here because it's simply they don't have the conditions to work from home. Some people don't have decent internet, they don't have proper desktops. So it's a little bit more expensive for a practice to have both desktops and laptops and so on. But I definitely think that it's the future, that everyone should be allowed to work from home if it doesn't impede with their work or if it actually makes the work better. I really changed my perspective on that. And I think it also kind of shows a lot of trust. Like if you have a team that you love, and if the work is done and is great and it's collaborative and so on, it's a good proof that you trust everyone to allow them to just be at home and do their thing because they get stuff done, right? What matters is the task that is done rather than the sort of rigor of all the kind of old school fashioned way of thinking that people should be here and they should kind of report back. And I don't know. I think it made me think. Yeah.
So I think it definitely seems as if more practices are gonna do as you did and make that a part of their policy.
Mm.
But one of the things that again is a bit confusing, especially even seeing myself as someone who's entering into a new job, and one of the questions that Zaid asked was, can online internships be considered? I think it kind of plays into the question of if there was a potential new employee, and if you were in the position to employ, I don't know if you are right now, but if you're in the position to employ, how would you go about training a new employee? How would you go about bringing in a whole new employee who needs to be educated on your office systems and your culture and things like that? during a remote working circumstance, or would you find a way to get them in intermittently?
I think all these are sort of details, if I may, because when you hire someone, you hire them because they're keen, because they're enthusiastic, and they're good spirited, and they're team spirited. You hire them because they bring a really positive energy in the studio, and that they make everyone better as a group. That is the key for what we're looking for. Honestly, the rest, the training, all this happens over time. It's, you know, we figure it out. Like we figure it out. People can, there's a lot to learn when you join a practice. There's a lot of systems. You have things like handbooks, you know, which is a manual that you give to people. But really, I think people just need to be trained little by little. And I wouldn't worry about these things, or at least, you know, in our practice, I don't know about other practices, but I think there are key elements which are the value of the companies you're joining, you know? And so if anything, ask for the values of the company. Like say, what are your values? What is your culture? Because that's what matters. In our case, we have, this is the first page of our handbook. You know, it's about iteration. It's about letting go of precious ideas and just kind of testing and being rough and kind of playing and sharing all the time with people so that we can all have iterations on the designs. All this is our culture. And if people are not like this, if they're, then it doesn't match, right? And often if an employee is not good, as in, it just means that it's just not the right culture for him. So very important when you go to a practice that you say, you know, what is your culture, you know? And I receive, of course, a lot of CVs all the time, but I always find the generic requests so kind of, you know, of course, offices rarely kind of, how can I say, it's not like offices are always hiring and they always like have openings and spots. These openings are as much crafted by the person that wants to join as they are by the practice itself. You know, we of course have opportunities when it opens up and so on, and we have people that just want to come for a few kind of days to see what's going on, and I never say no. Like, you know, if someone wants to kind of help out, and then you kind of craft your way. You say, you know, you kind of learn about a culture through listening to things like this, through listening to a YouTube video of the, like, there's nothing, I think I mean, my advice is really get to know the person you're going to work with before you go and reach out to them, because otherwise you'll just be a generic CV on an email, and it's not necessarily about how cool your portfolio is or how, because, you know, at the end of the day, I want an email that says, I loved what you say about this. This corresponds to my value. This is the project that corresponds to this value. You know, I want, this is my perspective over life, and this is why I want to join this studio. Like, this is the kind of emails that gets you a job. It's not, here's my CV, you know, this is my letter of motivation that I've sent to millions of offices. You know, the amount of work you'll do in doing a mass email, you might waste it more than if you do a triggered, targeted emails to the places that you want to go to and that you have really studied and researched. People love, you know, architects have a bit of an ego. They love to know that you know all about them and that you know about what they do and why you want to join them.
It's also an incredible indicator that you would be a perfect fit for that company as well. So it's all in a way that, you know, throwing, oh, I've got 7 awards doing this, you know, just by you showing you know what the practice does, it already puts you in a better position. That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. Just the final thing is based on what you've just said, and kind of thinking about what one of our viewers, Playo Matt, which was, will there still be opportunities for new graduates to enter into the workforce? Let's say you did get an application tonight or tomorrow morning. Would you consider it in the same way and kind of, basically, do you see COVID being an obstacle for you to employ people right now?
No, it's not an obstacle. It definitely shifted our priorities. You know, we're after people now that know things like Unity. We're after people that know game engines, that are familiar with virtual reality. We're after people that know Twinmotion, real-time engines. We're after people that are experts at Grasshopper and, you know, renderings, and like it's every practice does specific kind of work, and it's fair to say that it's always better if you already have the skills. Saying this, you can always learn and say that you're a kind of enthusiastic learner, but then that's how you should trigger. If you don't think you have these skills, then research what it is you need to learn, and say the effort you've done to learn that and why you want to join that practice. It's important that you choose a practice that it's for the long term, that it's like a couple years, that you want to grow in. People like to know that we develop, it's long-term relationships. It's not like I want to come in because I want to set up my practice in the future and I just want to learn everything and then steal your way of working. And then I think, sometimes it's a little naive, but, I just feel like when you join a practice, you join a culture, you join a group of people that have a certain dynamic, and you'll be part of that and you're going to share stressful moments, you're going to share joyful moments, you're going to be part of a community. And so it's important that one understands that this is a place that you give things, but they also give back. And so it's a mutual choice. When someone joins a practice, it's a mutual choice. And so, yeah.
Amazing. I think we've got some incredible insights there from you. Thank you so much for coming on. And I think we had one question about co-working spaces. I think that was kind of answered already. And she also said, so yeah, Arthur, I think, yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully you can hang around for the rest of the event if you have a chance.
No, I mean, good luck, everyone. I know it's a hard time. That's why I wanted to do this podcast, to kind of give some insight, because often we're surprised at the experience of people. That's why I like to speak about things like mental health. And I went through mental health issues. I went through very, very difficult time. You guys are not alone. We're all, although like I may appear like I've got a company now and it's all working okay, I went through very, very, very difficult times. And it's okay. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay that this is scary. A lot of people, most people, have difficulties in their lives. And so be gentle, be aware, be patient, and know that the person in front of you is probably struggling as much as you. And use the struggle as an opportunity to be stronger. We tell our students to be entrepreneurial, in a sense that money is something that people give when they believe in a project, right? So if you have a project, if you have an idea, don't wait for a job or an employment. Go on Kickstarter, make a video, explain why this is helping the world, not just yourself, but the world. And you'll get funded, put it out there, and I'm sure it will resonate. Galaxia resonated with people, so we funded all the project ourselves, mostly. So that's also entrepreneurship. It's not just not being employed. It's also being the capacity to create opportunities, the capacity to think beyond the box, right? So use that.
Amazing. Thanks again so much. And hopefully
Cool.
we'll get chances to speak again.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Ciao. Bye.
Amazing. Okay. So, wow. Really, really amazing advice there. What we will do is our next guest, Angela Brady, is scheduled now. So we will get her. I just want to ask quickly, and Angela, if you're there as well, you can chat. Does everybody want to quickly take a 5-minute break and then come back, or are we okay to continue? So I'm just going to wait for a couple of comments. If people want to take a 5-minute break, we can do that. Some water or toilet or whatever. Let me know if you want to just continue. So I'll take the first 3 replies. But if everybody wants to continue, we can carry on. Okay, we've got 1 continue. Angela's here. Okay, so we'll just go for it. Okay, we've got 1 request for 5 minutes. Okay, we'll do Angela, and we'll take the break after Angela Brady, so we don't keep her holding. Great. Okay, so Angela, we're going to get you on now. Great. So we're just waiting for Angela to join. Oh,
Hey.
brilliant. Hey,
How are
thank
you
you
doing?
so much. Yeah, brilliant. I'm good. How are you? You got
Very
amazing
good.
background. Yeah?
Oh, thanks. That's just a screenshot, you know.
Right. So, guys, again, Angela is another one of my Design Talks podcast guests that will be out soon. And Angela, like I said in introduction, she's she used to work. She was a ex-president of the RIBA. But I'll let Angela give a little intro now, just to just introduce her.
Hi guys, it's great, and I love the way you can see that there are 67 people listening in at the moment, Hamza, and well done on putting all this together. I think these kind of talks are great because we're always happy to give some feedback and encouragement, particularly to students in these times. Anyway, my name's Angela Brady. I'm a director of Brady Mallory Architects and a past president of RIBA. We have a small practice in North London, Caledonian Road, and we would specialise in community buildings and housing or offices, that kind of thing. So yeah. We started out early in our business at the age of 29. So I always encourage people, just if you've got one project, try and go out on your own if you can. And we've been in business for over 30 years now.
Amazing. And obviously you were president of the RIBA at one point, and that itself is going to give you a much more kind of bird's eye view, I imagine, on things that perhaps students are not knowledgeable on. So let's get straight into it and say, Angela, so how have you as a practitioner, as an individual, you talked about Brady Mallory Architects, just the same question I've asked the others, how have you adapted and how have you been affected by the pandemic?
Well, everybody, particularly us, we feel it as a small practice, we're under 6 people. So everybody's working from home. The office premises is actually closed. I just go in to set it up for the return, the desk distancing. There'll be no meetings, for example. They'll all be online. And then the only meetings will be internal meetings. So the meeting room is set up at 2-meter spacing and stuff. But actually, working from home is really good. My husband and I, Robin Mallory is my partner, Brady Mallory, he's my partner. And we used to work from home, actually from the very room I'm sitting in. And so we're used to it. So we've had the high-speed internet in and we kept it. So that's an advantage over a lot of people that actually haven't got the high speed, which is really important. But we've been affected really because a lot of our projects have gone on hold. Some have been cancelled. But that's partly to do with Brexit, to be honest. Some of those projects that were coming along, going on hold. And then I think the COVID-19 kind of put the hammer on the head on some of those. But other projects, we've got 2 on site, smaller refurbishment projects, which I think there'll be more of, because, the effect that COVID will have is some of the newer projects mightn't be affordable, or people might like to do less. And it's also much greener and more sustainable to work with existing buildings, which we certainly like to do. So yeah, working from home, I think is great. I think it's great for staff members who can work from home. And some of them have been doing 1 day from home anyway, because they have small children.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really interesting is I was reading the RIBA. RIBA put out an article recently talking about what should we do now as a profession, and they got some statistics of what they call the RIBA Future Workload Index. I don't know if you've been familiar with that in the past, but basically what they've been trying to get is data on how practices see their future work currently now. So what they've found is right now practices have kind of foresee that they will have a lot less future work. So, it's amazing that RIBA does put out the statistics, although, they could be doing a lot more with some statistics. But I'm curious as to what you think as someone who's kind of been in a quite a high position of authority, and what your kind of bird's eye view is of the profession right now. Do you think in the long term we will come back from this, or do you think, as kind of Ryan was talking about those graph variances, do you think it'll be quite a quick recovery?
We're all hoping for a quick recovery, and we must be careful we don't talk ourselves into a recession. There is the power of positive thinking, which I'm a great believer in. And, we've been here before. I've been through 3 recessions. When I graduated, I was in a recession. So I did further education. I did 18 months in Denmark studying postgraduate housing on a scholarship, which I was lucky to get. So I think that now, particularly to students who are finding it hard to find a job, which they will do before Christmas, it's going to be hard to get a job, let's face it. I'm saying to people, do a course. Think about something that will improve your skills, whether it be learning new computer programs, if you're learning Rhino, or if you're starting to work in your 3D skills on the computer. But also look outside of that. Look about your communication skills with how do you talk to people? How do you meet with your community groups? Join a community group, join a voluntary group. There's a load of charities out there that need people to volunteer 1 day a week. And you can be helping people. And through that, opportunities often just come up. It's because you're in the network, you're talking to people. And I just think the more that you're out there and not at home, by yourself thinking, oh God, poor me, I'm not going to get a job here. You really have got to look up and look out and see and talk to people. Talk to all of your people. Get on a regular group at least once a week. Your cohort at college, people outside college, people you haven't seen for ages, your cousins or people in different countries. Keep in contact, because it's that network that will help you and others. You will be helping them in the future.
Sure. Yeah, that's an amazing point. I want to ask you, in terms of actual employment and your experience on employing new people and your practice itself, the way your practice is operating right now. Obviously, you've got a small practice, but I think what's great is today we're going to get a really good view of all scales of practice. We've got, like I said, later after the break, we're going to speak to people who are working at Arup. We've got people who are going to be speaking, who work for Hawkins Brown, for example. So as a small practice, what do you think is going on in terms of the employment kind of opportunities?
Yeah, there are going to be less opportunities until the sites are open, until the work comes in. It's just, the work is still there. We still need housing. We still need offices and schools. The work is still there. It's just a matter of when it's going to come back, when it's going to be safe for it to come back. But what I would really love the government to do now, actually, is to give more, start off more feasibility studies for housing sites, whether it be council housing or co-housing or mixed housing or private housing, whatever it is. If there's more, I don't know, more positivity in the market, I think there will be bounce. And I think, this came out of the blue. It shocked us all. So, we were almost complacent, I think, as a profession. And I think this is a big wake-up call to think, okay, now here we are. How do we improve on this? How do we actually move beyond where we are now? And in terms of jobs, you've got to keep in contact with your clients. You've got to see new jobs there that you're on your clients' sites, maybe, that you could say, can I do a feasibility study for that? Can I help advance this to a pre-app or whatever it is? But in fact, talking about pre-apps, I chair one of the Croydon Place Review panels, and the work is still coming in. There's lots of big projects that we wouldn't be aware of because they're not in the press. But there are lots of projects that are coming before the pre-app committee, and we're all doing it on Zoom, and it's a good way to work and communicate. But there is a backlog, and then there's going to be a rush. So I would stay hopeful, students stay hopeful, and new grads, that there will be more. So it's a good time, as I say, to upskill.
Right. So it's amazing. We're getting quite an interesting pattern here with all the advice we're getting in. One of the questions, again, I want to ask is, this one might be quite relevant given your great work to do with equality in the workplace. Unfortunately, I haven't got the person who asked this question. I can probably shout them out later. But they asked, how can we as a profession ensure that this economic decline doesn't further ingrain a pattern of inequality? Obviously, there's been a lot of work that's been done, and all the kind of issues that are coming up lately with America and our current political landscape seems to be a lot of unrest now again. So I think what this person is connecting is the fact that when there is an economic decline, there seems to be other problems that emerge. So when it comes to inequality, how do you think we as a profession can bear that in mind as well?
I think we've also got to, we've really got to remember that the diversity is, well, if I'm talking London centric here, diversity is what London is all about. It's the people, and it's the people from all communities and all backgrounds, which brings a richness to practice and to all of the people that we work with and all of our clients at the end who are getting the projects, or who we're doing the projects for. On some of the panels that I've been on in the past, one of them was called Diverse City, and that was all about diversity of people. Now, we started that way back as part of Architects for Change, kind of at arm's length to the RIBA. And that was to promote women and Black and ethnic minority architects and to showcase them. So it wasn't a moan group, isn't it awful, you know, we can't get jobs, there's another recession. It was, hey, look what we can do. Look at all the things we're working on. And that was such a fantastic exhibition. It started off with a modest 50 panels, 50 people at the RIBA. And then from that, we got a call from the USA, would you bring it to California, and then up to Boston, and then up to New York. And then we got a call from China, and it went to 34 cities around the world. It went to every continent. And this was every city that it went to over the 6-year period, the 34 cities. We invited 10 panels from all of those people to add in and go to the next, to the next, to the next. Now, we're trying to bring that back this year. In fact, this week it was meant to be reopening at the RIBA, but because of COVID, it had to be postponed. So we're going to try and do this by video calls to the different countries that we've been to and say, that was us in 2003, 2003, 2005, 2010. Now we're taking another earshot. Where are we now, 10 years on from the last time we were in contact? And then, you know, because clearly there is still a problem with being very male and pale in our profession. Male, pale and middle class in our profession. And that's something that we were really trying to break down those barriers on. And we've come so far, but there's still a long way to go.
Right. And I understand you also were part of the RIBA overseas scheme, right?
The overseas which?
RIBA.
Oh, yeah.
It was an overseas initiative to take to Dubai, I think Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. We had, we started this international women's group. And so I was in the Middle East there for a while, just for a weekend. And we had this amazing Women in Architecture network where about 5 different countries all came to Jordan. We were in, where was it? In Amman. And we had a 3-day conference. And it was, you know, 100 women. All we were doing it through English mainly, thank God, and it was really enlightening, and to see how we all have that solidarity really around the world, and how we want to make sure that our voices are counted. And that's why we're pushing people to be on boards, pushing people to say, look, be represented, don't stand back, and if you see an opportunity, get onto one of those boards. And that's also a good thing to do now, because some of the boards are even paid. You know, you actually get paid posts. So I'm always encouraging, particularly students, where we need more young voices on these panel and boards where you know, they will be listened to and they can make a difference.
That's amazing. And I think in terms of the experience you've had internationally, one of the questions might work well to ask you is, T Prince M has asked, what's the best way to navigate obtaining an opportunity from, if they're abroad from the UK? Because right now we might have some people listening in different countries, and they might be interested. We might have been planning to come and work in the UK or to get an education in the UK. How would you, what would be your advice, whether it's just motivational advice or actual kind of procedural advice of what they should do now?
Well, I think anybody overseas who wants to come to any of our, how many universities do we have now? About 54 schools of architecture. Yeah, I'm involved with Westminster and with the London School of Architecture, where I volunteered to do the external criting, which I really enjoy, and it's a joy to listen to them with their new projects. And yeah, so I really like being involved directly with students in a kind of a mentoring way and helping them along with their projects. So overseas students, it's a matter of the cost are there scholarships available? Are there bursaries that they can apply for? Because not all students can access the funding, and a lot of students, naturally enough, it's stressful enough trying to get a student loan and all of that. But, you know, we all know the problems there. But there are some very good schools. Our own son actually is up in the Mac in Glasgow. I used to do external examining up there as well. It's another superb school. You know, in Britain we have, I believe, some of the best schools of architecture. With the London School of Architecture, you can do part-time at work and part-time at the university. And I think that that kind of part-time education is quite a good way, and it's sometimes more affordable for students. But I think approach the schools and try and talk to people like via yourself, for example. You've got a wide network of students, and ask students, what do they think? Which school is good? Which is that? What are the networks? Because sometimes when you're on the outside, you don't realize. And then again, students from here, or you know, people who've just done their sixth form, their secondary school education, if they want to go abroad or overseas, I think that travel is some of the best experience, because you're learning about new cultures, meeting new people. You have to stand on your own 2 feet, and it can really bring yourself out. You know, you can really become yourself much more than any of the restraints that you might have in your own country for whatever reason. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity if you can, but choose your university well. You know, see where you think would suit you, and then just try and contact somebody there to get some feedback.
Definitely. I think I remember our conversation actually that we did on the podcast, and
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the themes that kept coming up, and I found extremely motivational from you, was, and again, it's been a common theme in this event from the other speakers, is you've got to take initiative right now. Like right now, we are all asking questions, and I'm happy to have read these questions out and to have put them out there and made them kind of real. But a lot of the answers to a lot of these questions will always kind of be rebounded back to you, the person asking. Is you have to now take some sort of action, whether it's contacting the firm you're interested in, whether it's contacting the school you'd be interested in and asking them, do you think I should apply for the next semester? Should I take a tactical break? And in our conversation on the podcast, one of the main things you kept saying, even when it comes to kind of the political discourse of activism and things like that, is it all starts with just taking the first step. So I can definitely see that being a concept you're also kind of, you keep coming back to here as well. And
campaigning. If something's not right, campaign for it. But one thing that the two earlier, the lads that were speaking, I think it was Arthur was saying about internships. Now, there's internships and there's paid internships. And when I was president, I banned unpaid internships for all RIBA practices. And that is very important. People are being exploited by taking an unpaid internship. That also means that if there's a firm that pays all of their staff well, but another firm that doesn't pay any of their staff, then that means that the person who doesn't pay their staff is an advantage over somebody who's doing the right thing. I think every student and every young person has a right to be paid, and our profession should be able to do this. Otherwise, they are lowering their fee to get a job. Once you lower your fee, then you're going to do a worse job. There's no question, and it brings everything down. So students, I appeal to you, please ask for a fair wage, at least the minimum wage, whether it be in London or outside London or whatever it is. Do not be exploited. And it's actually against the RIBA charter for somebody to employ you and not pay you. So that's something, and I can see there's a bit of response there. I just think it's very important.
Definitely. And I think one of the things we talked about, we went quite deep into that in the podcast, and I was also playing the devil's advocate in places as well, just to get the kind of details out. And one of the things that I think, at least my perspective, is the fact that the RIBA had from the start made it very clear that this kind of thing is not allowed. And if there were any problems or complaints, then those people should go directly to the RIBA and tell them if they feel that they're being treated unfairly in some ways. So again, it's an important thing to just remind everyone that that you have so many support structures around you, from the informal contacts that you make with maybe me, or maybe other influencers online or Instagram pages. From what Ryan was saying, Arthur was saying, Angela is saying, you can approach them and message them if you have any questions. And then you also have these kind of these kind of higher kind of authoritative bodies who you can reach out to. And I think instead of us trying to kind of destroy ourselves from the inside, we should try to find ways of improving ourselves. And so, again, Angela, I think one thing I think we could end with is, right now, people are going through some sort of emotional difficulties as well. What advice would you give people right now who are facing this kind of job uncertainty?
Can I just put something in there, Hamza, that I meant to mention? In case we got cut off on time, how many minutes do we have left? The Architects Benevolent Society is there to help students and help people at ArcBenSoc, Architects Benevolent Society. I was president there for 2 years after president of RIBA. And they will help students who have hit on hard times, but most importantly, they can help with mental health. A lot of people have stress and mental health, more so now than ever. 1 in 4 students currently is suffering from some form of anguish. And whether it be from financial strain, work, job, whatever it is, everything that we're going through right now in the uncertainty. Things will get better. Things will get better. That is a certainty. But in the meantime, you can contact the ArcBen Society and they can put you in touch with either a psychotherapist for free, or they can access funding for you, all of these other things. But I just want that it's a little helpline out there for architectural students, for landscape students, architecture technology students, and I think structural engineering. But it's there for people to access. And they used to go round to the universities and have a kind of a talk so that people would know about it to access their services. But please don't, anybody that is in need. Also, I would say to students, keep in contact with your friends, and particularly the shyer people in your class that would be a little bit shy about coming forward. Everybody needs encouragement. So if you had a group of 5, if all of your classes were in groups of 5, or your group, then that 5 should at least have a Zoom call to keep each other going and cheered up, or new opportunities, whatever it is, or even just to have, a drink online on a Thursday night, or a cup of tea or a coffee. You know what I mean? It's these little groups that give some people that need it a little lifeline. So don't make sure somebody's not left out, because it can easily happen, and particularly when there are a lot of foreign students and they're in small flats and they can't get access to proper Wi-Fi or whatever it is. So just keep the community open and wide.
Amazing. Thanks as always, Angela. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too.
And I'm sure if people keep asking questions and commenting, you guys can also, find Angela on Twitter. She's quite active on Twitter, right?
Yes.
Right.
At Angela Brady, RIBA.
Perfect. Angela, thank you so much. And again, we're now going to head into the second part of the event after the break, which will bring in students who are working at quite big practices to give us their experience of what's going on right now. So thanks again, Angela.
Thanks.
Take care. Right. Wow. Okay. So that was amazing as well. We're getting such a broad range of views right now, and it's great to see a lot of comments and views being put down as well. Please use that comment board as a place to share your opinions and views. And if there's any kind of appropriate questions, we'll try to ask them as well. Okay, guys. We are going to take a quick 5-minute break. Just so everyone can go to the loo, get some drinks and whatever, take a breather. There's a lot of information to absorb. But let me tell you, when we're back, we're going to have some really interesting, amazing guests who are students themselves. So we're getting you guys back onto this, and we're going to get you to explain your views. So I'll quickly tell you right now, we're going to have Tyler Lemon. He's He's somewhat of an Instagram influencer himself in his own way. But he's also he's been working at Hawkins Brown for a while, and he'll give us an understanding of what such a prominent firm is doing right now and how they're dealing with things. And he'll have a kind of an inside view and perspective on what's going on. And then after that, we're going to have Sophia Malik on, and she is an architecture assistant at Arup, one of the biggest, or arguably the biggest architecture engineering practice in the world, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. But Arup is a major, major company. And we'll get her opinion as well on what's going on. And I think the amazing stance about that is we're also going to get a view on the construction aspect of things, because as we know, construction has been something that's been hit quite in a major way, and Arup deals with a lot of construction in their projects. So that'll be a very good indicator of what the job landscape looks like right now. And then finally, we're gonna get Reem on. Reem, sorry, I don't know your last name, but Reem was actually on the last Q&A. And she will talk to us about her experience at a smaller practice and what's going on there. We're going to keep these quite short, obviously not as long as the last one, so each one will probably be about 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're going to end with a quick surprise. There's going to be a little announcement from a group that we'd like to support as well. So great. So 5-minute break. We will be back at 15:42, and see you then.